Hello there. All right, so in Stephen Joseph and David Murphy's article on the person centered approach, they talk about there are six conditions that go into leading into a person's personality development in therapy. They are there needs to be unconditional positive regard, empathy, congruence, psychological contact between therapist and client. The client must be in a state of incongruence and distressed in some way. And then there must be communication felt from the client that the therapist shows towards the client, that there is some empathetic understanding and unconditional positive regard in some way. It must be present. These, of course, are necessary in the approach that the client, that the therapist must show towards their client. They should be empathetic towards them. There should be a need to hold them in some kind of positive regard. They need to be in a position that they want to help them, and it must be, of course, felt. And would suggest that the client, I guess, in some way should be in a state of distress. So that seems a bit harsh, but if they weren't, I guess they're saying, why would they be there? But there are many different reasons why a person would seek therapy. It doesn't necessarily have to be because they feel distressed. There are many. It's different from person to person, and so that's why I think while these traits are, of course, necessary for a therapist to have, they aren't. That's not it. There should be more to it. So I don't think they are sufficient. I think it should be considered from a person-to-person basis. Each person going in is going to have a different. Each client is going to have a different take, something they want to take away from therapy, and so there should be different regards depending on the person. It also depends on, of course, if the client and someone wants to change. It has to be met both ways. It is suggested, Joseph and Murphy suggest that it's intrinsic for the client to want to change. They instinctually want to. That's not guaranteed. A person has to generally feel like they want to change, and if not, then it becomes a sense of, if you're just enabling a client, if you're just letting them continue on how they are. So the client has to meet the therapist halfway, or sometimes all the way, to want to be able to go that next step and figuring out what it is that they're there for and what steps they can take to get to where they want to go to meet their goals. And so I think that's why I'm taking the stance of, while I think all those conditions are important for the traits for the therapist to have towards their client in the therapeutic setting, I don't think it's enough. There are many other conditions, and I think it just depends on a person-to-person basis how these conditions should be seen. They are good as a guide point in therapy, but I don't think that's where it should end. I think there should be more deeper levels between both the therapist and the client in order to get towards establishing how these changes should come up.